على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم صلاة وسلام عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. 3 miles north of Madinatul Munawwara there is a mountain, and this mountain, its name is Uhud. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam को इस पहाड़ से बहुत मोहब्बत थी. He used to love this mountain. अब इस पहाड़ का नाम उहुद क्यों था? क्योंकि इस पहाड़ और जो दूसरे पहाड़ है उसके दरमियान फासला है. There is no other mountains in that region. So because it stands alone, therefore it is called Uhud. Now, not only for this reason, the purpose of this name also has an indication. क्योंकि जो इस पहाड़ से नज़दीक लोग है वो है Ansar, or the Ansar were those people who accepted Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why Rasulullah sallallahu ने फरमाया कि I have love for this mountain and this mountain has love for me. इसीलिए क़यामत के दिन जितने भी पहाड़ हैं वो सब हलाक हो जाएंगे, लेकिन ये वो एक पहाड़ है जो क़यामत के दिन Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put it into Jannah. And not only this, in Jannah it will be with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is on this mountain, near this mountain, that today if you go for Umrah or Umrah ke baad, when you go for ziyarah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, आप Uhud पहाड़ के पास जाएंगे तो आप देखेंगे there is the resting place of the shuhada of Jang Uhud. This is where they are resting. Many companions, they were martyred in this battle, and that is our purpose of discussion today. I mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Madinatul Munawwara. This was the 3rd year after Hijrah, and in the month of Shawwal, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he received a letter. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam ko khat mila. When he opened it, who had sent the letter? Sayyidina Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala, and the uncle, the chacha of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. आपको मालूम है कि जंग बदर के बाद सैयदना अब्बास ने इस्लाम कबूल किया, लेकिन रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने सैयदना अब्बास को इजाज़त दी कि वो वापस मक्कातुल मुकर्रमा चला जाए, that he can go back to the city of Makkah so he can report what is happening in Makkatul Mukarrama. So सैयदना अब्बास रदियल्लाहु ta'ala अन जब मालूम हुआ कि ये लोग जंग के लिए जा रहे हैं, कुफार ने तैयारी की है, he sent a fast rider on a horse, and he covered the distance between Makkah and Medina in 3 days, and he delivered the letter to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In essence, what had happened is, आपको मालूम है कि जंग बदर में जो मुसलमान हैं वो कामयाब हुए, and as a consequence 70 kuffar they were killed. 70 kuffar were captured. They were made prisoners due to this battle. तो कुफार ने कसम उठाई कि हम बदला लेंगे, we will take revenge. यहाँ तक कि अबू सुफियान, जिन्होंने अभी इस्लाम नहीं कबूल किया था, वो अब सरदार बन गया. He was the main leader. उसने कैसी कसम उठाई? अल्लाहु अकबर. He said, मैं बाल में तेल नहीं लगाऊंगा, मैं गुस्ल नहीं करूंगा, मैं कोई भी नई चीज को हाथ नहीं लगाऊंगा जब तक कि मैंने बदला नहीं लिया है. Until I have not taken revenge, I will not do these things. I will not place oil in my hair. I will not have a bath. I will not touch anything which is new. Until I have not revenged, until I have not avenged the loss of life. Pir, his wife, Hind bin Utbah, she had lost many people. Her father, Utbah bin Rabi'ah, he had been killed by Sayyidina Hamza. Her brother, Walid bin Utbah, had been killed by Sayyidina Ali. Her uncle, Shayba bin Rabi'ah, had been killed by Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala an. So she took an oath as well. She said, I will not apply perfume until I have not avenged the loss of my family. तो उन्होंने क्या प्लान बनाया? The first thing which they did was कहा कि हमारी जितनी भी तिजारत है, जितनी भी बिजनेस है वो जो शाम जाया करते थे, एक साल की जो मुकम्मल नफ़ा है, the complete profits of 1 year, we will gather the money together and we're going to prepare for fighting the Muslims. So this is why, you know, Jang-e Badr took place in Ramzan, Jang-e Uhud 1 year after, in the month of Shawwal. This is when the battle of Uhud took place. So 1 year and just 1 month after roughly. So 1 full year's profits they put to one side. And with them profits, it was loads of money. Some books they mention 50,000 dinars. It's a ridiculous amount of money. This would, if it was this quantity, this is in the millions of pounds. They said they bought the best swords, the best arrows, the best spears and weapons and armor. Because unko zindagi itni pasand thi, they loved life so much. They were going to do whatever they could to protect themselves. Or unko malum tha that it is easier to fight against the mountains, it's easier to wrestle against the waves than it is to fight against the Muslims. And these people, they're not easy to fight against. So they made these preparations. They bought the best weaponry imaginable. And one of the things which they did, they hired poets, the shu'ara. और ये लोगों ने क्या किया, उन्होंने अशार लिखना शुरू किया. They began to write poetry. फिर जो कबाइल है उनके दरमियान जाते, and they would rally the people कि ये वो कत्ल हो गया, this brother of yours he died, and this uncle of yours he died, and they would recite poetry. One of the poets, he was captured in the battle of Badr. He went to Rasulullah ने फरमाया कि फिदिया दो. कहा कि मेरे पास 5 बेटियां हैं, I have 5 daughters. कहाँ से पैसा लाओ? Rasulullah said, okay, 2 conditions. You will not fight against the Muslims. You will not write poetry against the Muslims. कहा मंजूर है? कहा मैंने वादा किया. Then you can go. Rasulullah let him go. But when he went back to Makkah al-Mukarramah, what did he do? He began to write this poetry. And he began to incite the people. Is zamane mein, you know, we listen to music. People listen to music and they say, kya hai, usme kya hai? It's just a little bit of music. But we do not know the influence it's having on our hearts. They say so impure and, you know, disgusting things. This comes into your heart. And it starts affecting the way you think. You know, abhi koi aa gaya na. Just by looking at him, you can tell, oh, he listens to this type of music. Right? He's walking with a swagger. He's got his trousers around his ankles and he's walking like this. You know, he listens to rap music. Another person comes, he's wearing dark clothing. He's got mascara on. His hair's covering his face. You know, this person listens to some sort of death metal or something. Why? Because the music has an influence on the person. So we, in the month of Ramadan, we need to make an oath to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That after this month, we're not listening right now, lekin Ramzan ke baad bhi hum music, ye gana bajana nahi sunenge. We will not listen to it. It has an impact. Do not think like this. Then another person, his name was Ubay ibn Khalaf. He was the brother of Umayyah bin Khalaf. He was captured in the battle of Badr. They ransomed him. Uski jo family hai, unhone fidya diya. तो उसने क्या किया? He went back to Makkah al-Mukarramah. He bought a very expensive horse, and every single day he fed it the best food. जो, you know, सबसे बेहतरीन ग़िज़ा है, खिलाया, that the horse becomes strong. He bought weaponry and armor, and these people, they were dead set, they were ready that we are going to destroy these people. ये लोग हम उनको हलाक कर देंगे. These people, how dare they fight against us? Safwan bin Umayyah, his father had been killed. Ikramah ibn Abi Jahl, his father had been killed as well. Hind bin Utbah, these people, they went to Abu Sufyan. They said that, hum aapko nahi chhodenge. If you do not lead us against the Muslims, we will not leave you. So Abu Sufyan ne sari tayyari ki, and he prepared the army, an army of 3,000 people. 3,000 men. 700 fully armored. The best weaponry you can imagine. 200 on horses. 3,000 camels. And they were fully ready, and they set off from Makkah al-Mukarramah. Unke saath there was 15 women, and they were reciting poetry, encouraging the men to fight. When Rasulullah ﷺ received the letter in Madinatul Munawwara, he sent certain people, कुछ लोगों को भेजा कि आप देखो कि situation क्या है. They returned back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ने फरमाया कि ये बात है, this is the situation which is going on. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that's fine, okay. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tightened the security in Madinatul Munawwara. Sayyidina Sa'd bin Ubadah, Sayyidina Sa'd bin Mu'az, Sayyidina Usayd ibn Hudayr, the situation's fixed. Thursday night, it was the 14th of Shawwal. In the morning, it was Friday, the 14th of Shawwal. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ने जुम्मा नमाज सबको पढ़ाई. फिर he gathered all of them together और मशवरा किया. He was teaching the importance of mashwara. In the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, एक दर्स जो हमको हासिल होता है वो है the importance of consultation, taking advice from people. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gathered the people together कि आपका क्या मशवरा है, how do you want to fight these people. वो लोग बिल्कुल करीब आ गए हैं. They were on the outskirts of Madinatul Munawwara in the grassland area called Uraid. They were already there. तो जो अकाबिर सहाबा थे उन्होंने कहा कि हम मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा में रहेंगे और यहाँ हम से जिहाद करेंगे. From the city we will fight. Why? What was the wisdom behind this? You know, Madinatul Munawwara is surrounded by volcanic tracts, okay, mountain region, and there's forest, there's houses. तो जब फौज आई ना, they get split up, and because they get split up, then they can fight very easily. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ने उनको एक ख्वाब बताया जो which he had seen. He said, I saw a dream. In the dream, I saw that I was carrying a sword, but the tip of the sword was broken. जो तलवार का ऊपर वाला हिस्सा है, that was broken. And I saw that some cows were sacrificed, and I had a shield. तो पूछा रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को ये ख्वाब की ताबीर क्या है? तो रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया, the cows being sacrificed is signifying कि कुछ बड़े-बड़े सहाबा किराम, the people who are close to me, they are going to be shaheed in this battle. और ये जो तलवार का हिस्सा जो टूट गया, it means there's someone who's very close to me, जो मुझसे बिल्कुल करीब है, they are going to die in this battle. But I got a second sword in the dream, and that means later we will be successful. And the shield, जो shield है, उसका ये ताबीर है कि हम मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा में रहे और यहाँ से हम जिहाद करें. We fight from मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा. लेकिन उनके दरमियान कुछ नौजवान लोग थे जो जंगे बदर में उनका हिस्सा यानी उनको opportunity न मिली, because they never went to do jihad, they went to stop the caravan. So these people, they never got a chance. तो उन्होंने कहा कि अगर कुफार मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा के बाहर आ गए और कहा कि ए मुसलमान निकलो हमारे साथ लड़ो, और हमने कहा कि हम नहीं निकलने वाले हैं, तो they look bad on us. ये अच्छी बात नहीं है. हम चाहते हैं कि जैसे वो सहाबा जिन्होंने बदर में जिहाद किया, हम चाहते हैं कि हम भी ऐसा जिहाद करें. We want to go outside Rasulullah. We want to go and fight them in the plain. We don't want to stay in the city. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went back to his house and he placed on his armor, he raised his sword, he tied his amama. अब जो अकाबिर सहाबा थे जैसे कि सैयदना साद बिन मुआज, सैयदना साद बिन उबादा, सैयदना उसैद बिन हुदैर, जो यानी they were the leaders, they said to these young people कि तुम लोगों ने क्या किया? Wow, you have done. You have forced Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wanted to fight in the city, he receives wahi, revelation, and you have forced him out of the city. तो अब ये जो नौजवान थे, they came and they said, Ya Rasulullah, हमको माफ करे, we didn't mean this. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no. When a prophet wears his armor, then at that point now, he has to stand in front of the enemy until Allah has decided. जब तक Allah फैसला न फरमाए, the prophet, he is not allowed to take his armor off. We have decided, फैसला हो गया है, अब आप लोग तैयारी कर ले. Start preparing to fight. So in this, the companions, they started coming together, and जो बिल्कुल छोटे बच्चे थे ना, they really wanted to fight. There was one individual, his name was Sayyidina Rafi bin Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala, and he was roughly 15 years old. That's it, 15 years old. Rasulullah was telling people, look, tu nahi aa sakta hai, you cannot come, you're too young, you're too young. So he did what I mentioned before, he started tiptoeing. So Rasulullah said to him, okay, you can. तो फिर क्या हुआ, एक शख्स जिसका नाम था सैयदना समूरा, he was also 15 years old. कहा कि या रसूलल्लाह, आपने उसको शरीक होने दिया, but I am stronger than him. I can beat him in wrestling. So I should be allowed as well. So these two, Sayyidina Rafi and Sayyidina Samura, they had a wrestle. Sayyidina Samura, he won. Rasulullah said, you can participate as well. This was the zeal they had to defend Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, when Rasulullah gathered his army, there was 1,000 log the. वो Madinatul Munawwara से निकले, and they reached the outskirts of Madinatul Munawwara on the night. Maghrib और Isha की नमाज अदा की. In the morning, वो क्या देखते हैं कि मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा के जो यहूद है वो आए मदद करने के लिए, लेकिन रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने उनको वापस भेज दिया. कहा कि हमको मुशरिकीन की सपोर्ट नहीं चाहिए. We are fighting mushriks, polytheists. We don't need the support of polytheists. और फिर ये भी बात थी कि these people, their intention was not sincere as well. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you go back. अब जो मुनाफिकीन का जो सरदार था अब्दुल्ला बिन उबई, he got angry. कहा कि मैंने जब कहा कि हम मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा में जिहाद करें तो वो भी मशवरा नहीं सुना. जब ये लोग जो मेरे हलीफ है वो मदद करने के लिए आए, when they came to support my the Jewish people who are my supporters, they came, you sent them back. कहा कि I am not going to stay. He just wanted an excuse. उसको तो सिर्फ बहाना चाहिए था. So he went back, और 300 आदमी, 300 people, they went back with him. Now how many people are left? 700 Muslims against how many? 3,000 disbelievers. They outnumbered 4 to 1. For one Muslim, there's 4 kuffar, there's 4 disbelievers. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, जैसे कि सोना, when it has gold has impurity in it, and Allah when you put it into the fire, the impurity comes out. So in this way, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the impurity has been removed from our army. Now the people who remain are those who are sincere in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he delivered a khutbah, and then he began to prepare the army into nice straight rows. Okay. And he began to give the flag to the people. And on the opposite side, the kuffar, they began to prepare their army. Who were the leaders in the kuffar? On the left flank, it was Sayyidina Ikrama ibn Abi Jahl. Abi usne Islam qabul nahi kiya tha, the son of Abu Jahl, whose name was Ikrama. On the right flank was Khalid bin Walid. He was in charge of the cavalry, the people who sit on the horses. He was the commander of them. And in the middle was Amr ibn al-As. He was in charge of the infantry. All 3 of them, and another leader was Safwan bin Umayyah, 4 of them. All 4 of them later, they would all accept Islam. This is the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were the leaders in Uhud. And the main leader was Abu Sufyan. All of these people, they would all accept Islam later on. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam ne, what did he do? He placed the army in front of Mount Uhud. And he said to them, this is where you will stay. Lekin ek rasta tha. There was a way, a path, a very narrow path, which if it was not guarded, the kuffar could come from behind. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he instructed 50 archers under the command of Abdullah bin Jubair. कहा कि तुम लोगों को यहाँ रहना है. अगर हम कामयाब हुए, फिर भी रहना है. अगर हम हार गए, and you see them severing our bodies, you are not to leave. यहाँ से नहीं जाना है. You have to stay here. Do not move from this place. 50 archers. अगर तुम लोग यहाँ से हट गए, तो the people can come from behind. You understand? This is a war strategy. So do not leave from here. It's very important that you stay here. And then he began to organize the ranks. Now the Muslims and the kuffar, they came face to face. The first person who came onto the battlefield, his name was Abu Amir al-Awsi. He was from the Aus tribe. He said to the people, do you recognize who I am? आप लोगों ने मुझको पहचाना? मैं अबू आमिर हूँ, al-Awsi. तुम्हारे कबीले में से ही हूँ. Ar-Rahib मेरा नाम है. क्या नाम है? Ar-Rahib. Why did they used to call him Ar-Rahib, which means monk, a person who doesn't love the dunya? क्योंकि वो इतना इबादत गुजार था. He used to worship so much. He wasn't a Muslim, वो मुसलमान नहीं था, लेकिन वो इतनी इबादत किया करता था, इतनी इबादत, they used to call him the monk. लेकिन जब रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा में आ गए and people started paying attention to him, तो उसके दिल में हसद की आग, the fire of jealousy came into his heart. और उसने रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के साथ अदावत और दुश्मनी की. जब उसने सुना कि कुफार मक्का उहद के लिए तैयारी कर रहे हैं, तो वो मदीना से, he left from Madinatul Munawwara with 50 people and he joined the army of the kuffar. His son was Sayyidina Hanzala radiallahu ta'ala, which we're going to talk about very shortly. Ghasilul Malaika, the one who was given a ghusl by the angels. We're going to mention about him. He came forward, वो आगे बढ़ा. कहा कि तुम लोग मुझको पहचानते हो? I am a rahib. कहा कि तू तो फासिक है. You're not a rahib. You are a fasik. You're a transgressor. You're a wrongdoer. तो उसको गुस्सा आ गया. They began to fire arrows. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told the companions, first his son came, Sayyidina Hanzala, कहा कि Rasulullah मुझको जाने दो, let me go, I will deal with my father. Rasulullah said, no, it's your father, you stay behind. They began to throw stones at him, and they began to throw stones until all of them, they fled from the battlefield. They all fled from the battlefield. Then the next person who came forward, his name was Talha bin Abi Talha. He was the flag bearer of the kuffar. He was carrying the flag. कहा कि कौन है? Who is ready to stand in front of me? No one answered. Then he said a second time, who is ready to stand in front of me? No one answered. कहा कि तुम लोग कहते हो कि अगर तुम शहीद हुए तो जन्नत में जाओगे, and if we die, अगर हम कत्ल हुए, if we died in this battle, we will go to Jahannam. So who is ready to send me to hellfire, or who is ready to go to Jannah with my sword? Look at the arrogance he had. So Sayyidina Ali ko gawara nahi hua. This is enough, that's it. And Sayyidina Ali, he stood forward with the Zulfiqar. And he said, I am ready to face you. Before Talha even knew what was happening, he was already dead. He was already on the ground. Now the people, they were looking from behind. Wo dekh rahe the. Sayyidina Ali struck him. Talha went into the ground. And he wasn't finished yet. And Sayyidina Ali, all he had to do was finish him off, but he walked away. To pucha ke, Ali, why did you not finish him off? He was ready, he was on the floor. कहा कि जब वो ज़मीन पर पड़ा तो उसकी सतर खुल गई. And he was begging me, leave me, have mercy upon me, have mercy upon me. तो मुझको गवारा नहीं हुआ. I didn't feel it was appropriate कि मुसलमान ऐसा कोई काम करे. So I turned around in disgust and I walked away from him. And he died anyways from this wound. When his brother Uthman ibn Abi Talha, he saw this, तो वो आगे बढ़ा. He said, how dare you, this is what you have done. But before he knew what was happening, Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, he had already sent him to Jahannam. So they passed the flag to the next person. So Sayyidina Hamza killed him as well. And like this, they kept passing the flag to the next person. And Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, he was killing one person after the other. Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, he was an amazing individual. In the books of Seerah, it mentions that जब वो jihad के लिए जाते, he would have a sword in each hand. दो तलवार लेकर वो jihad किया करते थे. Whoever came in front of him, he'd send him to Jahannam. No one had the audacity to fight him. But the problem was, Hind bin Utbah, she had not accepted Islam yet. She had lost her whole family in Badr. There was a person whose name was Wahshi. He was from Habasha, Abyssinia. He was a black slave. He was very good with the spear. Neza ke saath yani mahir tha. Hind and Jubair bin Mut'im, because his uncle, he had been killed in the battle of Badr. उन्होंने उसको कहा, these two, they said, कि अगर तूने Hamza को कत्ल किया, number one, you are free, you're no longer a slave. And number two, we will give you so much wealth, we will give you so much money and so much property. So Wahshi, he stayed on the sidelines. Because there was no benefit of him fighting. He was hiding behind a stone. And Imam Nawawi, he mentions that at one point in the battle of Uhud, Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, he was fighting, and there was one famous person, his name was Siba bin Abdul Uzza. He called him and he said, you say you're so strong, come and fight me. When Sayyidina Hamza, he took his swords, he hit him with such severity that he cut him in two parts. He sliced him straight down the middle. Previous to that, Sayyidina Hamza, he was so powerful with Uthman ibn Abi Talha. He struck him on the shoulder, but he hit him so hard that the sword went all the way to the hip. this was like the strength of the Muslims. Yani ye log jo the, they koi bodybuilder nahi the. They never used to go to the gym. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of their ruhani, their spiritual strength, Allah gave them this much power. Now Wahshi, what did he see? Imam Nawawi says कि अब क्या हुआ? Hamza, he slipped. उनका जो पैर है थोड़ा सा फिसल गया, and an opening came in his chain armor. Wahshi, he saw the opportunity and he struck the spear. It's mentioned the spear, he went through and he came out of the other side. लेकिन फिर भी Sayyidina Hamza आगे बढ़े. So Wahshi, he says, the blood drained from me. He goes, I completely froze. I thought I have struck this person. The arrow has gone straight through his body and he's still moving forward. He goes, I did not know what to do. He goes, I completely froze when this happened. But the wound was so severe, Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, and he passed away from this wound. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the foster brother of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who had supported Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam throughout his mission of prophethood. This uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, unfortunately, he was martyred in this battle. Later, they would mutilate his body. I will mention about this later on. Just one thing about Sayyidina Wahshi, क्योंकि उसने Islam कबूल किया, he accepted Islam later on. Look at the mercy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Look at the rahmah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. जब इसने इस्लाम कबूल किया, तो Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam ने ऐसा नहीं कहा कि तू और तेरा इस्लाम go and go somewhere else. ऐसा नहीं कहा. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam forgave him, उसको माफ कर दिया. और सिर्फ इतना कहा. Look at this. He said, oh Wahshi, जब तुम मजलिस में आओ तो मेरे सामने ना बैठना. Don't sit right in front of me. Or not because of Rasulullah, not for his own benefit. कहा कि जब तू मेरे सामने बैठेगा तो मुझको मेरे चचा का याद आएगा. And maybe you will see something, मेरे चेहरे में तू कुछ देखेगा और फिर तुझको अफसोस होगा. You will feel bad. So because you will feel bad, इसीलिए do not sit right in front of me, sit to one side. ताकि तू ये ना देखे. You do not see this. Now look at the mercy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This Wahshi, Sayyidina Wahshi radiyallahu ta'ala an. उसने कहा कि जब मैं काफिर था तो इस नेज़े के साथ, यानी one of the best people who was walking on this earth, I killed that person. लेकिन जब मैंने इस्लाम कबूल किया तो ज़मीन पर जो सबसे बदतर था, the worst person, Musaylama Kazzab, Dajjal, the first person who was a false prophet, who claimed to be a prophet, मैंने उसको इसी नेज़े से कत्ल किया. I killed him with this very spear. Is mentioned in the battle of Yamama, Sayyidina Wahshi radiallahu ta'ala, and he struck Musaylama Kazzab, and this is something which eventually led to his death. So this was Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu ta'ala and how he was martyred in the battle of Badr. I'll mention just one or two more points and I will bring my discussion to the end. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he had a sword, and he said, who is willing to take this sword? Who is willing to take this sword from me? तो सब लोग आगे बढ़े, but none of them were given the sword by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then there was one person whose name was Sayyidina Abu Dujana radiyallahu ta'ala. कहा कि Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam मुझको तलवार अता फरमाए, give me the sword. तो Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam उनको तलवार दी. कहा कि इस तलवार की हक अदा करनी है. There was some poetry which was written about cowardice and how you shouldn't be a coward in the battle. तो Sayyidina Abu Dujana ने पूछा, या Rasulullah, इस तलवार, what is the right of this sword? क्या हक है? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ने फरमाया that the right of this sword is you use it until it is bent, fighting against the kuffar. So Sayyidina Abu Dujana ने कहा कि मैं तलवार का हक अदा करूंगा. I will fulfill the right. He wrapped his red turban upon his head. जब लोगों ने देखा, they said, this is the death turban. क्योंकि जब भी वो ऐसा किया करते थे, that means he was ready to die. He entered into the battlefield. Is mentioned Sayyidina Abu Dujana, Sayyidina Zubair, he said कि मैंने सोचा कि Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so many people moved forward. Sayyidina Umar आगे बढ़े, Sayyidina Ali मैं भी आगे बढ़ा, किसी को तलवार नहीं दिया, लेकिन इसको दिया. So he said, I followed him in the battlefield. और मैं क्या देखता हूँ? This person, he would fight the disbelievers with such ferocity that he would start at the front, he would go all the way through the disbelievers. He would form a line straight through the disbelievers. When he would get to the back, he would start coming in the opposite direction. Until one point is mentioned, he went through the disbelievers and he confronted Hind bin Utbah. And there was no one to save her at this point. And she started screaming. And all he had to do was strike his sword and she would have been finished. Lekin he placed the sword back in his sheath. He said, I am not going to use this sword in order to kill a woman. I will not stain this sword with the blood of a woman. Right? This is the chivalry, the honor that the Muslims had when they were fighting against the non-Muslims. In this manner, the Muslims, they were very, very successful in the Battle of Uhud. They fought with great bravery. I'll just mention the last story about Sayyidina Hanzala radiallahu ta'ala, and I'll finish here. He was the son of this person who was called Ar-Rahib. What happened was, it was the first night of his wedding. Usne abhi nayi shaadi ki hoti. He just got married. And the relationship with husband and wife, he had just finished, and what happened? He heard the call of jihad. तो वो फौरन निकल गया. As soon as he heard कि रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम हमको बुला रहे हैं, वो फौरन निकल गया. अभी उसने गुस्ल भी नहीं किया था. So he went and he joined the army, and when they began to fight, he used to jump into the enemies and he would fight. And he fought so bravely. At one point, he was face to face with Abu Sufyan. He even struck the horse of Abu Sufyan. But one evil, wretched individual, Shaddad bin Aswad, he struck Sayyidina Hanzala radiallahu ta'ala and down. Now the issue is, if you become shaheed, when ghusl is farz upon you, then technically your shahada is not accepted. If ghusl is farz upon you, your shahada is not accepted. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ne khush khabri sunai, he gave the bashara that I saw this person Hanzala, and who was giving him ghusl? The angels, the farishti, they were giving him ghusl. That's why he is called Khasilul Malaika. And like this, many Muslims, they fought, and before they knew it, the kuffar, they were fleeing from the battle of Uhud. They were running away. But the Muslims, they did not listen to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wo jo hukum tha, wo nahi suna. And because of this, the battle of Badr, it changed upon its head. This part, inshallah, we will discuss tomorrow. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. हम सबको Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ki sunnah ke mutabik amal karne ki tawfiq ata farma. Ya Allah, give us all the ability to act upon the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Allah, forgive us for all of our major and minor sins. Ya Allah, those brothers and those individuals who listen to these lectures, Ya Allah, bless them in this life and in the akhirah. Ya Allah, increase them in their knowledge and in their good actions. Ya Allah, forgive them for all their major and minor sins. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.